How to close deals without giving up equity. The two routes every real estate investor needs to understand before the next deal falls apart. Let's get into a full-blown breakdown of down payment gap funding. So, 3 days before closing, here's the big problem. The call always sounds the same. The gator pulled out, the private investor covering the down payment went quiet. Closing is days away and the gap is wide open again. The gap funder changed their mind. You find out 3 days before closing. And here's how they show up to my call. Freaked out, stressed out. It's the gator pulled out. Your private capital source goes silent with no warning and no backup plan. The gap is open. Closing is days away and the down payment's uncovered again. You need a better route. There's 2 ways to fill the gap. One is far more reliable than the other. So let's have a look at it. What is down payment gap funding? Here's the fundamentals. So your hard money lender covers roughly 70 to 80% of the deal, depending on your experience and your relationship with them. So the remaining down payment, closing costs, and sometimes the first draw, they're the gap. Gap funding fills that gap so you're not wiring it yourself. So here's the different ways. We've got institutional tools such as mezzanine, joint venture, preferred equity. These are more on bigger commercial deals like 20 plus unit, multifamily, strip malls, that sort of thing. Or you got private terms, faster funding, higher cost. Up in the high coverage but high leverage cost, you've got a private investor. These are your gator lenders behind the first loan. And then in high coverage, low leverage costs, we've got institutional capital stacking. No lien, stack tools. So there are 2 ways to fill the gap: a private investor or institutional capital stacked correctly. The route you choose determines your speed, cost, and reliability at the closing table. Now, private money, gator lending, as it's called in the industry. An individual investor fronts the gap, funded behind your first position loan. In exchange, they receive a return and sometimes an equity piece in your deal. So who funds it? Single private individual, not an institution, steps in to cover the gap behind your primary lender, your hard money, and they've got a position in the deal. So funded in second position behind your hard money or primary loan already in place. What they get, a targeted return on their capital and sometimes an equity piece carved out of the deal. And as we'll see, these days, they typically want to actually cross-collateralize another property you own at about 150% of the lended amount as well. So private money, what it actually takes, this is what no one will tell you. Qualifying for private gap funding is not as simple as having a deal. The bar is real. The process adds time and exposure before you ever reach the closing table. So people send me the breakdown of their deal. Come on, it's a great deal. Your private money investor doesn't give a shit about your deal. They want to underwrite you as the operator, because is a great operator going to be doing a shit deal? Probably not. So they want you to have a 680 credit score. They don't know you from a bar of soap. Minimum threshold to even begin the conversation with private gap funder. The approved primary loan, you must already have an approved or pre-approved first position loan in place before applying. The borrower interview and bio. This is where it's a personal interview requirement. The funder is evaluating you as much as the deal. As the operator, how many successful flips have you done over the past 2 years? And then a second underwrite. Now they're going to look at the deal, and it's going to be underwritten a second time after your hard money, layered on top of your primary loan approval. So here's the real numbers. Cost structure, 15 to 25% return targeted on gap capital, depending on the length required to have the funds. The longer the time period, the higher return. 2 to 5% connector fee on total gap funds. So you'll see these guys running around the Facebook groups, hooking you up with gator lenders. And then there's these days, they're going to want cross collateral, and it's going to be against another property you already own. Potential equity piece taken from the deal as well. So the timeline, this is a very conservative timeline, 1 to 2 months to get this all done. That assumes the funder stays engaged, the re-underwrite goes smoothly, and nothing changes in their personal financial picture between now and closing day. So that's an optimistic scenario, not the guarantee. And as I said before, many times they're pulling out at the very last day. No skin off their back if they promise you capital and then you can't go ahead at closing if something changes and they change their mind. So at the end of the day, it is great to build these private capital partners and build these relationships over time. But if you're looking for someone to come in on your deal as a stranger off the internet, just know there's a process to these things. So Here's the core risk. That money belongs to one person, not an institution, one individual who can change their mind, have their own cash flow problem appear overnight, and leave you holding the gap 3 days before closing. So this is that outline. So a single individual controls whether your deal closes. No committee, no backup, no institutional obligation to follow through. They're not under contract. They can pull out the day before close. No obligation to stay. They can change their mind at any point. Their personal cash flow problem becomes your closing problem instantly. You find out too late. The news arrives 3 days before closing when there is no time to find a replacement and no good options left. Now, let's have a look at the 5-tool stack, the second route. Institutional capital, sequenced correctly, no single point of failure, no stranger deciding if they personally like you. Each tool is either unsecured or secured against an asset you already own, which is typically a requirement of gator lending anyway, never against the deal finance. So this is the exact order we go in to get all layers approved on the institutional 5-tool stack. Debt consolidation, freeing up cash flow for the deal, boosting your FICO score, straight into rapid gap funding at the exact same time for unsecured term loan stacking, 0% credit card stacking. You've probably heard of it before, but not many people do it correctly. HELOCs and business lines of credit come after that. So altogether, it's amazing what we can do as we sequence these correctly. And then on each tool, you want to make sure you're using a soft pull pre-approval to get the best rates and terms on the market. So no lien on the deal ever. Every tool in the 5-tool stack is either unsecured or secured against equity you already own, never against the asset being financed. And that distinction changes everything about how your deal is structured and who has power over it. So no lien on the asset. Gap capital never attaches to the property being purchased or renovated. And the reason for that is typically hard money lenders don't want a second position on their loan anyway. They could pull back their approval if they find out you're getting second position money in there. There's no borrower interview. Institutions underwrite you, not your deal and not their personal impression of you, and no equity given up, not too many chefs in the kitchen. Institutional pricing means no profit share and no piece of your deal changes hands. Now, the 5-tool stack, speed and pricing. So these are the main benefits. Obviously, we got 1 to 2 weeks, even 1 to 3 days in some cases, as you can see here. Moves a lot faster than that 1 to 2 months for private money to do their due diligence. And the cost structure, 0% introductory periods on credit card stacking. HELOC rates are tied to the prime. So even like 8 to 9% interest. Standard installment pricing on unsecured stacking, no profit share, no equity piece taken. Now, the thing is, as you see with the rates on a lot of these tools, it's far cheaper as well. So private money versus the 5-tool stack. The two routes are not equally matched. Here is how they compare across every dimension that matters at a closing table. So qualifying, 680 credit and a lender approval, that's going to be the same for both. You can do debt consolidation starting at a 650 to position yourself with a better FICO score, paying down that utilization on cards. The vetting, personal interview and re-underwriting, as opposed to institutional underwriting only. They've got a set of rules. You know those rules. You can sort the cash reliably. Cost, 15 to 25%. That's not per annum. That's over the length of your deal. So that annualized could be 30 to 50%, possibly equity split on top. Institutional rates, they're clear. You see it in their terms. And the timeline's 3 to 4 weeks, even up to 8 weeks versus 1 to 10 days. Some HELOCs, especially on LLC-owned investments, may take up to a month. Reliability, it's one person's discretion versus institutional approval. With a set of rules, you're either in or you're out. Now, we offer both, but the better out's usually pretty clear. So gap funded arranges both private capital and institutional stacking. If you qualify for private money, you almost certainly qualify for the 5-tool stack, or at least getting started. And the 5-tool stack's faster, cheaper, and it does not evaporate 3 days before closing. So private capital arrangement would be for deals where private money is the right fit. We source and structure the relationship properly from day one. Institutional stacking, the 5-tool stack is sequenced to fund your gap faster at a lower cost with no single point of failure and no equity surrendered. Another bloke telling you how you can exit your own deal. So the right route for your deal, we help you identify which path fits before you're the one calling 3 days out with a gap and no options. So Get your gap covered. Go to the link in the description. Pretty clear there. gapfunder.com/apply. Find out which route fits your deal. Get it covered the right way before you're the one calling 3 days out. Find your route. Discover whether private money or 5 tool stack is the right fit for your specific deal. Get it covered right. Close with confidence. Institutional capital that does not disappear at the last minute. And before you need it, apply now, not 3 days before closing. The best time to solve the gap problem is before it becomes a crisis. And at least you're going to get some ranges and mapped out a game plan before you even go into your hard money lender. Now, don't be that guy calling or lady calling 3 days out. If you qualify for private money, you probably qualify for the 5 tool stack, faster, cheaper, without a single point of failure that ends deals at the worst possible moment. Hard money is going to cover 70 to 80% of your deal, depending on your experience. Days to fund for the 5 tool stack, 1 to 10 days versus a month or two for the private, and 0% equity given up. Institutional stacking means no profit share, no equity piece, no strings. Go and apply, gapfunder.com/apply, and apply today and close with confidence, because at the worst case scenario, at least we can map out a set of steps to position you for some of these tools. Now, if you got any value out of this video, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, hit that bell. I'm Mick Wadley. Let's go close something.